All right, so we talked about hybrid message service. Kind of the similar but counterpart to that is going to be the Cisco Jabber messaging mode. I say it's a similar function because it uses Jabber in conjunction with Webex Teams for messaging, but it's not a hybrid service. And that's an important aspect to this solution to remember. You do not have to enable hybrid message service to use Jabber messaging mode. You do not have to enable Jabber messaging mode to use hybrid service. They are independent of one another. They are completely autonomous from each other, and they can be used for slightly different scenarios, right? Hybrid message service is for environments where you already have an on-premise Jabber deployment and you want it to, and you're planning to keep it. You're not trying to migrate it or move it. You just want it to work in conjunction with your Webex Teams users as well, right? And that's why you would use hybrid message service. Jabber messaging mode is really a solution that's mostly intended for companies who are planning to make a migration from premise to the cloud. And this is kind of the first step in users getting off of Jabber and migrating over to Webex Teams. And you'll see this as we go through this session. The objectives for this lesson, pretty simple. We're going to talk about your deployment requirements and then your call manager requirements. So let's first address with deployment requirements what Jabber messaging mode is and kind of how it operates, how it functions. So Jabber team messaging mode is the ability to register Cisco Jabber directly to the Webex control hub. That's the difference between Jabber team messaging mode and hybrid message service. Is hybrid message service, Jabber is still registered to an on-prem IM and present server. Webex is registered to Webex Control Hub. You're just building a connection between them so they can communicate with one another. In this case, though, with Jabber Team Messaging Mode, Jabber, for instant messaging and presence purposes, replaces the IM and present server with Webex Control Hub in the cloud. Right? It's cut one out, replace it with the other. So get rid of IM and present server, replace it with Webex in the cloud. So Jabber on-prem registers to Webex in the cloud just like Webex Teams clients does. Right? No codependency exists between hybrid message service and Jabber Team messaging mode. But these two services can exist at the same time in a single enterprise deployment. So even though they are mutually exclusive, you can run both of them at the same time within a single environment. And there might be a scenario out there in which you may want to set that up. There are 5 different services that are available in a cloud-based deployment using team messaging mode. Cisco Team Messaging Mode provides contact resolution through the Webex Control Hub. So just like with hybrid message service, you have that contact resolution because Jabber and Webex are registered to the same place, and so they're seeing the same contacts, right? Secondly, Cisco Team Messaging lets users show their presence availability and see others users' presence availability. Significant thing about presence availability, because Jabber and Webex Teams clients are registered to the same present server, presence information is instantaneous. Whereas I was telling you before with hybrid message service, present status, there's a delay, up to a 10 minutes delay. Like you can expect at least a 10-minute delay when the present status changes. Not with Jabber Team Messaging Mode. Because Jabber client and the Webex Teams client are registered to the same platform, when you change your present status, it's seen instantaneously on the other client. Cisco team messaging lets users send and receive instant messages. So that's pretty much the same. Works the same way, right? You send instant messages. And again, that's point-to-point or group spaces. The fourth one, Cisco Webex Meeting Center provides hosted meeting capabilities that can be joined through Jabber. Now, think of it like this. This is kind of interesting and significant. If I go into a Webex Teams client and there is a scheduled meeting that added my user into that meeting, I can click a button and join that meeting from my Webex Teams client, whether I'm set up for calling or not. Same thing's true with Jabber. If Jabber registers to the Webex Control Hub, just like a Webex Teams client, and someone schedules a meeting and adds me as a user into that meeting, from my Jabber client, I can click to join that meeting instantaneously, just like I could from a Webex Teams client. So I think that's unique from the way Jabber behaves ordinarily. And then the fifth one, voice and video calling can be added to the Jabber client by registering via SIP back to the Cisco Unified Communications Manager after team messaging mode has been configured. And this is the only piece that connects to an on-premise device. Calling cannot occur in Jabber without it. Excluding Jabber being able to call into Webex meetings, you cannot do any other calling with Jabber. I can't do a point-to-point call or call somebody outside my business, anything else. There's no calling capability in Jabber unless you register back to the CUCM. So this is kind of a unique scenario. It's not hybrid. What it's doing is it's dividing Jabber kind of down the middle, saying for instant messaging and presence, register over here to Webex. For your calling, register over to CUCM. But that's not really a new concept, is it? Because Jabber already, in an entirely on-prem environment, says register to the IM and presence server for instant messaging and presence, register to CUCM for calling. So the function's the same. What's different is instead of Jabber registering to the IM and presence server for the instant messaging and presence, it's now registering the Webex Control Hub. That's the piece that's different. Now, why do we do this? Right? Cisco Jabber Team Messaging Mode offers an alternative path to the traditional Jabber on-premise deployment using the IM and presence server for XMPP messaging. Instead, Jabber Team Messaging Mode allows the Webex Control Hub to be used as a replacement of the IM and presence server, and then all messaging and presence communication traverses through the same media path as the Webex Teams messaging. And this allows the seamless integration between Webex Teams clients and the Jabber client. This also allows for easier migration from Cisco Jabber to Webex Teams, and that's kind of the key element Cisco was thinking about when they developed this solution, is companies are going to want to migrate to the cloud. They're already using Jabber on-prem. We want to get them to using a Webex Teams more, so how do we get them to do this migration path? We allow Jabber to register right here to Webex Control Hub and then make Jabber work just like it would ordinarily, or make Jabber work just like the Webex Teams client works, so that if people down the road decide I'm going to switch over to Webex Teams, that migration's a lot easier because it's already in line with that path. Now, if companies want to continue to use Jabber the way they are already, using XMPP messaging through the IM and presence server, they can continue to do so as well. They don't have to make the migration. Cisco will continue to support this solution, but this offers an alternative path to those companies that do want to migrate to the cloud, right? So as mentioned earlier, the service provides to Jabber through team messaging mode, includes instant messaging, presence, and contact services. If voice and video calling still required through Jabber, the client still has the ability to register back to the CUCM. And with a CUCM registration, the Jabber client can still utilize all the benefits that coincide with that CUCM registration. So if you use voicemail through Unity Connection, you can still get those voicemail services. If you use the corporate directory in the CUCM, you can still have access to that corporate directory. If you have remote users that are using MRA services still continue to operate, right? So all those UCM services will continue to function as they always did, but now instead of using the I'm in present server, you're going to use Webex Control Hub for your messaging, presence, and contact services. All right, let's talk a little bit about the client itself. In Jabber version 12.5, Cisco changed the user interface to be more in line with the Webex Teams application, and that way usability is easily transferable between the two. There's no limitations in what you can do with Jabber as compared to Webex Teams. Teams messaging through Jabber supports the one-on-one chat messaging, group chat messaging through Spaces, member lists, moderator controls for meetings, and participant lists. But this example right here just shows you the difference between these two clients. You can see that now the Jabber client and the Webex Team client have a very similar look. Really, the only difference between them has to do with these menus on the left column. What menu options are available to each one of these clients. That's really the only difference. Functionality-wise, they are the same. Present status, as I mentioned before, is also a seamless integration. And as I said before, when we did the hybrid, we talked about hybrid message service, how there's a delay in sharing presence information. Nice thing about team messaging mode is that presence sharing between Jabber and Teams clients is instantaneous, right? So if a user jumps in a meeting or changes their present status to do not disturb, other users will be able to see that instantaneously. That change happens automatic. So you can configure up to 20,000 Jabber users in Control Hub using a CSV file. When you add user information in that CSV file, you can also assign services to that user. The following services are available from Jabber Teams Messaging Mode. You can set up Jabber Team Messaging Mode, Jabber Calling, UC Manager Profile, Contact Migration, and Upgrade Profile. Rather than using a bulk import method, you can set up individual Jabber users for team messaging mode as well, which is ideal when you're first setting this up just for testing purposes. So from the Webex Control Hub, if you select Services, select Settings under the messaging cards, so you look for the messaging cards, click Settings, scroll down to the Jabber Team Messaging Mode section, and then toggle on Enable Jabber Team Messaging Mode. Then a pop-up window will appear asking you to verify two settings. The Webex Teams domain is the same as the voice service domain, and DNS SRV records are deployed using Cisco UC services. So verify both settings are configured correctly, then click Finish. If you can't verify the settings, then you're going to have to take additional steps in order to verify and configure and verify the domains, which are different. Once the settings have been saved, you can click on the Users menu, select a user from the Service section, select Cisco Webex Teams, and then choose the options you want to enable for that user. And again, you can enable Jabber Team Messaging Mode, Contact Migration, required, enable Jabber Calling, and optionally you can choose a Cisco UC Manager profile for the user as well. If you don't choose a profile, then Jabber uses the service underscore domain, the voice service domain, the domain of the username, or the UPN domain to query the DNS SRV record in order to connect back to your CUCM. You can set up calling for your Jabber users on team messaging mode in the Control Hub. You either create a profile for your CUCM server setting in the control hub, or you choose from your existing deployment options. The Jabber client uses these settings then to connect to the CUCM for all of its call capabilities. So to configure these settings in the Webex control hub, you go to the services, find the messaging card and click on settings. Select add profile under the UC manager profiles, enter your profile name, and then select all of the appropriate options. So you have voice service domain, UDS server, UDS, or you can click allow users to edit server address to allow your user to change the server settings in the Jabber client itself. Then you save the profile. For Jabber deployments with team messaging mode, you can control the upgrade path for your Jabber users. You can apply organization-wide settings, or you can create an upgrade profile to assign to individual users. Upgrade profiles allow you to control how desktop users upgrade to newer versions. You can set users to automatically upgrade to the latest version of team messaging mode, or only upgrade to specific versions. The profiles do not apply to mobile clients. When you specify a version in the upgrade profile, users do not upgrade the version after the specified versions. However, upgrade profiles that specify an unsupported Jabber version are considered invalid. In that case, your users upgrade to the latest version of Jabber. Typically, Jabber supports a release for Jabber Team Messaging Mode for 1 year. Periodically, update the profile to specify a valid version to which your users upgrade. I think the current version of Jabber right now is 12.8. I think just came out recently. I believe that's right. 12.7 came out in October. So last year was a big year for upgrades. So 12.5 came out in April last year, a year ago. And then no, I'm sorry, I take that back. 12.5 came out in January last year. 12.6 came out in April of last year. And 12.7 came out right at the end of September, 1st of October last year. I can't remember exactly. And I believe 12.8 just came out in December or January this year. December last year, January this year, right in that time frame. So I believe 12.8 is the current one. 12.9 will probably come out here pretty soon, and then the next one after that will probably be 14.0, because CUCM is going to upgrade to version 14. Jabber versions follow CUCM, and Cisco will skip version 13 because it's bad luck, right? So, from the Webex Control Hub, you can go to Services and click Settings on the messaging card. Under Jabber Team Messaging Mode, you want to select Add Upgrade Profiles. You want to give the profile a name and specify the upgrade path for Jabber for Windows and Jabber for Mac users. Automatically upgrade users to the latest version and upgrade their clients to a specific version. Those are all options you can check. Then you save the upgrade profile, associate the profile to your appropriate users, and then they should be able to upgrade their clients. You can run Jabber Team Messaging Mode in IM only mode, and this mode does need Cisco Unified Communications Manager and its calling, does not need the CUCM or its calling capabilities, so you don't have to configure those settings. To replace CUCM as the deployment site for Jabber configuration file, you can upload the Jabber configuration file to the Webex Control Hub. You can upload one configuration file for each organization, and the file must be in .xml format. So it's by organization, not by location, just so you know. You can delete the configuration file in the Control Hub if you deem that necessary. If your deployment includes a CUCM and a configuration file is detected there, the CUCM configuration file does take precedence. All right, call manager requirements that we're assuming we're using calling. So these are the requirements to set up the CUCM for calling. Just run through these real quick. You want to configure the clients, then create users on the CUCM. You want to configure your service discovery for remote access, configure your desktop control, if like CTI control, if you want to be able to do that, and then configure your soft phones if you're using, well, soft phones you need to configure either way. So you want to configure your soft phones. So let's walk through each of these, starting with configuring the clients. In most environments, Cisco Jabber for Windows and Cisco Jabber for Mac do not require any configuration in order to connect to services. You want to set client configuration parameters only if you require custom content such as automatic updates, problem reporting, or policies and options. So the steps to configure these settings are quite extensive. So I'm not going to talk about how to configure them in this class, but I did provide a link for you in the student guide where you can find more information on configuring these steps if you're in an environment where you need to configure the Jabber clients themselves. All right. Then we want to create users on the CUCM. So this will ensure that contact data in your directory server is replicated to the CUCM. You must synchronize with the directory server. Before you can synchronize with the directory server, you must enable synchronization. So I've included steps here, how to go into the CUCM and set up LDAP integration. Couple ways to do this because the CUCM supports more than just Active Directory. It supports different types of LDAP services. So first thing you want to do is set, what type of service are you using? Most people use Active Directory, so in this example, I'm showing Active Directory as the LDAP server type, and the attribute for user ID is going to be the SAM account name. Then, once you save those settings, then you'll have to go in and configure your LDAP servers for synchronization, and then that will import your users into Active Directory, and it'll actually say on the left column here, active enabled LDAP synchronized user. I know it's hard to read, but that's what that says over there. And that tells you that these users were imported using LDAP. Right? It could say manual user, which means a manually added user too. And you can have mixed environments with LDAP users and manually created users in the CUCM. LDAP synchronization does not include authentication automatically. That is something you would have to set up in addition to synchronization if you want to use the like single sign-on credentials for users using the passwords in LDAP. That has to be set up separately. Then you want to configure service discovery for remote access. Service discovery enables clients to automatically detect and locate services on your enterprise network. Expressways for mobile remote access allows you to access the services on your enterprise network from a remote location without the use of a VPN. You do need to meet the following requirements to enable the clients to connect through an expressway for mobile remote access. Understand we're not talking about an Expressway C connector host here. We're talking about the Expressway Core and Edge set up for mobile remote access or MRA access. It's a proxy access. So there's DNS requirements you have to meet, some pretty strict certificate requirements to set up mutual TLS. You have to test your external SRV records underscore collab dash edge is the SRV record you need to configure and test. So DNS requirements for service discovery through the remote access include setting up a Collab Edge SRV record, also setting up your Cisco UDS SRV record with on an internal DNS server, not on your external. Optionally, for a hybrid cloud-based deployment with different domains for the IAM and present server and the voice server, you want to configure the voice service domain to locate the DNS server with the underscore collab dash edge SRV record. So before you configure remote access, you want to download the VCS Expressway and Expressway E server certificate. The server certificate is used for both HTTP and XMPP services. And then I have a link in here for you to be able to find more information on those certificates as well. So you can open a command prompt to test your SRV record. Once it's configured, open up a command prompt, enter NSLOOKUP, and then enter type equals SRV, and then enter the name of your SRV record. So if you're for Collab Edge, if you had a specific domain called example domain, you could type in underscore collab dash edge dot example dot domain, and then it should display the IP address of the server that the SRV record was set up for. If it doesn't, then you probably have a problem with your SRV record and you need to go back and double check it. Could be the port you're using, 8443 is the default port you want to use there. All right. If you want Cisco Jabber clients to be able to control your desk phone for the user, you have to select the Allow Control of Device from CTI option when you create the device for the user. Desk phone video capabilities let you receive the video signal on your laptop and the audio signal on your phone. Physically connect your computer to your desk phone through your computer port in order for the client to establish a connection to the Jabber client. You cannot use this feature with a wireless connection to your desk phone. Now, this is called CAST, C-A-S-T. It's Cisco Audio Session Tunnel. So if you're using CAST with CTI desk phone control, meaning you're splitting the audio and video channel, you have to be tethered into your computer from your desk phone. They have to have that Ethernet cable between them. But you can use what's called desk phone mode without using CAST, where what happens with desk phone control is I hit call on my Jabber client and it sends audio and video to my phone. And my phone, by the way, can be a telepresence endpoint. So for example, it might be a DX80. And in that case, you do not have to be tethered in. You just have to be on the same network, right? Jabber's registered, the phone's registered. They do not have to be physically connected to do that. You only have to be tethered in order to use CAST, where you're splitting the audio session from the video session, right? The client uses video rate adaptation to negotiate optimum video quality. Video rate adaptation dynamically increases or decreases video quality based on network conditions. To use video rate adaptation, you must enable real-time transport control protocol on the Cisco Unified Communications Manager. RTCP is enabled on Softphone devices by default. However, you must enable RTCP on your desk phone device as well. And then you can enable RTCP on a on a desk phone on a common phone profile to enable video rate adaptation on all devices that use that profile. When you associate a user with a device, you provision that device to that user specifically. So in other words, in the CUCM, you can create phones but not associate them with users. But in that case, Jabber cannot assume desk phone control of that phone, even if you add it to the user profile, because the phone itself is not associated with the user. So you have to go into the phone and associate it with the user and add it into the user profile as well. You got to do it in both places. After you create and associate users with devices, you should reset those devices just to make sure the settings are applied to the phone. Understand that resetting device after configuring Jabber team messaging mode can take up to 5 minutes, anywhere from 5 minutes to over an hour in order to reset the phone. I mentioned that before. It's just, you don't know how long it's going to take. So you reset it, and when it works, that's when you know that the reset's complete. How long does that take? As long as it needs. And there's no way to change that. I've tried everything. I've tried rebooting the computer. I've tried completely exiting out of the client and then logging back in. I've tried emptying the cache. I've tried dumping the logs. I've tried everything. There is nothing on your end that you can do to speed up this process, because it has to do with the backplane in the Webex cloud solution. And you don't have access to that. You can't control that. And therefore, it will take as long as it takes. Just be patient. All right. Now, you can also go Softphone mode, which means I'm not going to use a desk phone. I'm just going to use Jabber by itself, and that's it. So for this, you want to create at least one device for every user that accesses Cisco Jabber. A user can have multiple devices, though. After you create and configure each device, you must add a directory number to the device. And this topic provides instructions on adding a directory number using the device phone menu option. So on a CUCM, when the client attempts to retrieve the service profile from the user, it first gets the device configuration file from the CUCM. The client can then use the device configuration to get the service profile that you applied to that user. This procedure is required only when you use Cisco Unified Communications Manager Release 9 and are configuring devices for mobile clients. Use the default SIP profile provided for your desktop clients. Before you create and configure devices for mobile clients, you must create a SIP profile that allows Cisco Jabber to stay connected to the CUCM while Jabber runs in the background. If you're using CUCM Release 10, choose the standard SIP profile for mobile device default profile when you create and configure devices for mobile clients. You can also optionally set up secure phone capabilities for all your devices. Secure phone capabilities provide secure SIP signaling, secure media streams, and encrypted device configuration files. If you enable secure phone capabilities for your users, then device connections to Cisco Unified Communications Manager are secure. However, calls with other devices are secure only if both devices have a secure connection. So that concludes lesson 5 on Jabber team messaging mode.